What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I have been inspired. I've invoked the muse to talk about some of these new games that Nintendo announced at their latest Nintendo Direct. I know not everyone was the biggest fan of the September 12th Nintendo Direct, but I personally had a lot to like coming out of that presentation, with series that I love getting new games, with games that I love getting new updates. Price aside, $20 for Donkey Kong DLC, I don't know if it's worth it. And the most exciting thing to me, not to turn this into another direct discussion, because Lord knows we don't need more of that, a lot of these games are coming out really darn soon, right? Yoshi, Tomodachi Life, Mario Tennis, Pokemon Pokepedia, all games that are going to come out in the first half of 2026. Alongside the topic of today's video, Super Mario Bros. Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Meetup in Bellabel Park. What a name. What a great name for this edition of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Now, as you guys might know, I am a huge fan of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It might be my favorite 2D platformer of all time, and certainly is one of my favorite games of all time. I've made videos on it in the past. I've 100%ed the game twice, and I am super excited to dive back into it early next year. But I wanted to take a closer look at the trailer and speculate on what we could be getting in this Switch 2 Edition package, because the Switch 2 editions we've gotten thus far have been pretty underwhelming, especially the ones that they've charged $20 for, as we assume they will for the Mario Wonder Switch 2 edition. But judging from the trailer we got, it seems like there's going to be a lot to do in this Switch 2 edition, a lot of extra content added, and that's really exciting for me as someone who's a huge fan of the base game. So today, I'm going to give you my observations that I have surmised from watching this trailer again and again in the few days since it released on September 12th, including my thoughts on what the extra content they teased at the end would be, because I think it's going to be a bit of single-player content. How robust, we'll talk about it, but I don't think it's just going to be co-op stuff that is included in this Switch 2 edition. So let's get right into it. First, I've got two overhead thoughts before we get into specific stuff. One, boy does this game look incredible on Switch 2. Mario Wonder was already a beautiful game on the Switch 1, especially on that OLED display if you had a Switch OLED. But on the Switch 2, with presumably 4K resolution, 1080p in handheld, it's just gonna look so darn sharp. And you can get a glimpse of that in this trailer. It's a game whose art style will forever age impeccably well. And I can't wait to see it with HDR support, with 4K support, maybe with 120 FPS support. Probably not. Nintendo hasn't gone back to old Switch games and given them 120 FPS yet, so I'm not necessarily expecting it here, but I think 4K is a safe bet. The other general thought I had while watching this trailer is, I think the flower has a new voice actor. I heard some rumors on Twitter about how this could be the case, and watching this trailer, which features a lot of vocal lines from the talking flower, it's pretty clear that, yes, it is a different guy. Now, I don't really have a problem with that. I thought the original Talking Flower voice actor did a great job. This one seems to be doing a great job, too. I know a lot of people really care about Mario voice actors, and I'll be honest, I don't. I don't care at all. It's like one of the things I care least about. People get really up in arms about this stuff, not me. But I think it's interesting to note because it seems like Nintendo wants to make this talking flower character a real thing, judging by the fact that he's in Mario Party Jamboree Switch 2 Edition. He's in Mario Tennis Fever. He's featured heavily in this trailer. He's got a freaking figurine coming out next year that just talks whatever the hell it wants to. What a creepy little toy that I am going to have to get my hands on, because I love this little stinker. Oh my gosh, I love the talking flower.
Was it something I said? The talking flowers. We actually made them.
We kind of look alike, huh?
Oh, really?
But yeah, it's a shame that it's not the same guy, I guess. Again, I don't really care. I heard some people say on Twitter that in other languages, the voice actor is the same, so maybe it's a Nintendo of America thing. Don't know, to be honest with you. Tell me in the comments if you're locked into Mario voice acting discussion, I guess. Let's get into the content, though, that we saw in this trailer, starting with Bellabel Park, the new co-op mode being added to Super Mario Bros. Wonder. The first thing I noticed was when they showed that overhead shot sort of all of the levels, there seemed to be at least 15. And given how Mario Wonder's overworld map had a lot of secrets to find and a lot of little nooks and crannies that unlocked other levels, I think it's a safe bet to say that there's probably going to be more levels than what we've seen in this trailer as well. The other thing I noticed in this trailer is that there's a Poplin stand with an Amiibo logo on it. Now, Nintendo is of course embracing Amiibo again based off of that most recent Direct where we got 7 of them announced. But notably, they did not announce any Super Mario Bros. Wonder Amiibo. You would think if they had any in the holster, they would have just showed them alongside the other Amiibo, considering that the other 2 Mario Amiibo aren't coming out until next April. But I think there is a chance that we could get that long-requested Elephant Amiibo based off of this stand. In terms of what Amiibo could do in this Switch 2 edition, I am not sure. There was no Amiibo functionality in the base Mario Wonder game, as far as I'm aware. I guess it could just give you some extra coins, maybe it unlocks an extra level. Let's hope that's not the case, considering how expensive Amiibo are now. But it is cool. It's just another feature that they're adding to this Switch 2 edition, the fact that you can use Amiibos in some form or factor. We see a shot of a Goomba in an apple just chilling. That's amazing. I love that. And then going back to that idea I had earlier that there might be more than 15 levels, you'll notice on the map there are some things that seem interactable, whether they be sprouts in the ground, flower signs, Captain Toad looking areas, bells floating in the air, or a big sprout in the blue area on the right. Again, one of the best parts of Mario Wonder was that overworld map, which had so many little secrets and nooks and crannies to find that oftentimes would reveal new levels to you. So I think it's a safe bet that there might be some hidden levels on this Bellabel Park overworld map. Another thing I think is really cool about this Switch 2 edition is there are new enemies and items in it. There's a coin drum guy who was not in the base Mario Wonder game. There's cannons that weren't in the base Mario Wonder game. There's a Phantomass that, as far as I'm aware, was not in the base game. And there's baby Yoshis as well, which seem to function similarly to how they did in New Super Mario Bros. U. One of my biggest problems with Kirby and the Forgotten Land Switch 2 edition is that there were not any unique enemies at all. They just slapped a crystal hat on the old enemies and called it a day, which was fine, right? The new levels were still fun, but they felt a little unoriginal. These Bellabel Park attractions, of course, are not real levels, they're more mini games, but it's good to see EPD7 going the extra mile and adding some enemies and adding some different features that weren't in the base game, considering they had so many ideas for the base game that got scrapped because they just had so many that they couldn't fit them all in. I bet some of these things that got added in Bellabel Park are ones that were just on the cutting room floor for the base game. Speaking of those mini games, I love the variety on display here. They are really Mario Party-esque in their design. We've got a minigame where you have to collect the most coins. We've got a minigame where you have to hide and seek. We've got a minigame that looks sort of like a platform fighter. We've got minigames that are co-op relays and co-op platforming. We've got rhythm minigames similar to those in the base game. And we've even seemingly got a survival mode where you have to stay on those falling platforms as long as you can without dying. There's even one where you collect apples with the baby Yoshis, who again just look so darn cute. The one thing I am concerned about is they hammered home the idea of local co-op in this mode, which is cool. Obviously, these will be fun with friends in person, but I hope that we can play them with friends online, and I think that will be the case because at the top of the screen it says Local Multiplayer Plaza, and that wording to me would suggest that there are different plazas. Perhaps one with friends online and perhaps even one with strangers, because one of the coolest things about Mario Wonder was that you could play levels with strangers. They appeared as see-through ghosts, but they were real players playing the game at the same time as you, and oftentimes you could give each other hints and emotes and stuff. It was really darn cool. So I hope they bring that functionality over to these mini games and allow you to queue up with other users around the world and play them. I think at minimum we will be able to play these mini games with friends online, but I'm really crossing my fingers for that online functionality with anyone around the world because I think that could be really sick. It was already cool in the base game where it didn't really need it, but this is a mode that could really benefit from that feature. I, of course, would also love to play these minigames with CPUs. Perhaps, even like Mario Party, you could change the CPU level of difficulty. There's no evidence that they would add this, but that would add another level of replayability to this mode that would be excellent. So I'm hoping that they add something like that too. But again, at the very least, please add some sort of online strangers multiplayer mode similar to the base game. The last note I have on Bellabel Park is something that you see near the end. At the top left-hand corner where you see the currency that the players have, you see the normal coins and purple coins, but then you see water drops. These, of course, were not in the base game, so it seems that Bellabel Park has its own currency, and I wonder what that might do. I would imagine you get water drops for winning minigames. That's a pretty easy conclusion to come to. But I wonder if this would suggest that there are standees specific to Bellabel Park, or maybe even some specific emotes that you could use in these minigames against other people. It clearly must have some function because they wouldn't add it if it didn't, right? The purple coins could buy seeds, they could buy different badges. Oh, could you imagine if there were more badges? I didn't even think about that. Maybe there are some badges specific to Bellabel Park. That would be awesome. We'll get to the single player content in a second, but I really hope they add some more badges. That would be really cool. So overall, Bellabel Park is a lot more exciting than I thought it would be, right? If you told me before the presentation, hey, we're gonna get a Mario Wonder Switch 2 edition, but it's going to primarily focus on co-op, I would have been really disappointed, right? I was hoping that a Switch 2 edition for Wonder would add a few more worlds, a few more badges, some more boss fights, and I would have assumed that if they were focusing on co-op multiplayer, it would have been similar to Jamboree TV, which I thought was a pretty putrid Switch 2 edition. But this actually looks really fun, and if you can play it against strangers online and even CPUs, that could be a really excellent mode that I would sink a whole lot of time into. But let's talk about the main event, right? That single player content that was teased for just a few seconds at the end of the trailer. We first see Captain Toad in an area that was not in the base game. It's blue, there's water dripping everywhere, there's even blue water flowers next to Captain Toad. I love the Captain Toad design in this game, by the way. He looks so darn cute. The Mario Wonder art style does wonders, no pun intended, for basically any character. It can turn the ugliest design into the most squishable little guy, and Captain Toad was already adorable. He just looks so cute in this new game. We, of course, also see all 7 of the Koopalings, which were a big absence in Mario Wonder. I know a lot of people were sick of them, but imagine what they could have done with Wonder Flowers, right? There could have been some really cool boss fights with all of that. We, of course, did not see that. We had Bowser Jr. instead, and I think those boss fights are underrated, but certainly not the most exciting. But it seems like we're finally going to get to find out what these Koopalings would have done with those Wonder Powers, and that is really exciting. Of course, their designs also look incredible. I love Lemmy hanging off the side of the Koopa cart. That's very cute. We then see a shot of Mario, Captain Toad, and a Poplin about to fight Wendy in one of the early game areas, specifically the Piranha Plant music level, which is a banger, of course. And at the end of the clip, before it cuts away, she's very clearly using a Wonder Flower and transforming similarly to how Bowser Jr. and Bowser did in the base game. We'll get to my theory on what the extra single-player content is in a second, but this might imply that similar to Kirby and the Forgotten Lands Switch 2 edition, we're going to be remixing older levels rather than adding brand new ones. We then see a shot of Blue Captain Toad, who apparently is named Hint Toad. I looked that up before recording. Never heard that, but we'll go with it. We see Hint Toad in what seems to be an area in Bellabel Park. And now this is where it gets interesting, because the way the trailer was split up into 2 parts, it seemed like Bellabel Park was separate from the single-player stuff in the Switch 2 edition, but here we see Hint Toad in what really does seem to be Bellabel Park, so it seems like there will be some overlap in that regard. We then see a Captain Toad tent in Pipe Rock Plateau, which seems to have a new level with 1 Bellabel flower to collect. Note that this level does have a difficulty star rating, so it's not just some sort of transitionary stage. We then see Mario and Captain Toad collecting a Bellabel flower. Notice in this shot there are bubbles all around it, similar to the area where we found Captain Toad at the beginning of this section of the trailer. So that's all the footage we got of the single player part. of this Mario Wonder Switch 2 edition. They told us to stay tuned for more information. But let's get to my theory on what this single-player campaign, quote-unquote, could be for the Switch 2 edition of Wonder. I think what we're going to find is that each world has a Captain Toad tent. There's going to be a tent placed in each pre-existing world, and these tents each contain a level where you have to fight a Koopaling to get a Bellabel flower. And the math there would work out because there are 7 worlds in Wonder, counting Petal Isles but not counting Bowser's Castle, and there are 7 Koopalings, so each 10 in each world could have one of these 7 Koopalings. You'd fight them and get a Bellabel flower. There is a chance it's also a whole level and not just a fight, or there is a level and a fight separately. We see Mario and Captain Toad collecting a normal looking seed, not a royal seed like you get when you beat Bowser Jr., so that would imply that it's a normal level, but this is also DLC, so who knows. I would guess that after you face these 7 Koopalings, you get one more fight in Bowser's Castle. You would think against Bowser, but imagine if it was against Dragodon or Wingo. That would be so darn cool. And given that these levels have star ratings, based off what we saw from the one picture of the Captain Toad tent, I would assume that completing all of them unlocks one more 5-star challenging special world level. But given that they took the time to add the entire Captain Toad Brigade into this Switch 2 edition and the Koopalings as well, each seemingly with their own boss fights, there's a chance that this single-player content is a lot more significant than I'm giving it credit for. But only time will tell. Given that this comes out in spring of 2026, we probably won't have to wait too long for more information. I would think by February at the latest we'll have a release date, and I think we'll be playing this very soon. Obviously, they gave it the spring 2026 window, but I'd be pretty surprised if it doesn't come out before the Mario movie, which I think is expected in April of 2026. So that's all I've got for today's video. Those are my observations from watching this trailer, painstakingly combing over every second, and as well my theory for what that single-player content could be that they teased at the end. Tell me in the comments, do you agree with my theories? Do you think we will get a cool little single-player side story in this Switch 2 edition, or do you think they're gassing it up and it's just going to be mostly co-op stuff? Also tell me in the comments, are you excited for this Wonder Switch 2 edition? Are you a little disappointed that it is a majority co-op / versus content, or are you excited to hop on there with some friends in spring of 2026? Tell me all that down below. Make sure to like the video and subscribe, hit that big fat button. As I say all the time, there's a lot I'm working on for this channel, so if you want to stay tuned and not miss anything that happens here on the channel, make sure to subscribe, hit that freaking bell so you don't miss anything that is going on the channel. And with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.